So after playing The Witcher 3, naturally I was interested in what CD Projekt Red, the developer of The Witcher 3, was doing next. Now, what they're doing next, their next project, which has been announced, is something called Cyberpunk 2077, which is a role-playing game. Again, not a lot is known about this game, but I'm going to share with you some of what we do know as of right now about Cyberpunk 2077. Now, of course, the game is supposed to be taking place in a dark, futuristic, unclear if it's completely dystopian, but you can imagine it's probably pretty dystopian. It's going to be set in 2077, and advanced technologies have become both the salvation and the curse of humanity, according to one of the developers who was talking about the game. Now, there's not a whole lot of details known particularly about the game, about gameplay elements or any details like that. However, some things have been discussed, which we're going to look at right now. Now, this game is going to be set in an open-world metropolis city called Night City, and all of those inhabitants are going to be communicating in non-English languages. And when a player doesn't speak the language, they can actually buy translator implants, and then they can kind of comprehend them better, they can understand it. And the more expensive the translator implant, the better you can understand what everybody is saying, which is a pretty cool mechanic, so you got to save up money so that you can understand everyone around you better. You got to work harder to become more literate, things like that. So that would be a really cool role-playing mechanic where you aren't just walking in there and you can understand everybody perfectly well. You know what they're saying. You can look back over a chat log like in LA Noire and see exactly what they said 20 hours later in the game. Instead of in this case, you have to actually work consciously in order to keep track of what's going on and understand what those around you are saying and communicating. Now, according to an article written by a man named Adam Cook, published on February 17th, 2016, he wrote that there's going to be a mechanic called Brain Dance, which is a digital recording device, streaming device, which goes directly into the player's, the character's brain, and it allows the player character to experience the emotions, the brain processes, and muscle movements of another person as though they were their own. Which, from what we can guess, would basically just mean that if you are, for instance, you're talking with somebody trying to figure out if they're lying or not, you would be able to stream their emotions, brain processes, and muscle movements directly into you, so that you could figure out what they were actually thinking. Were they lying or not? What was going on? Do they feel scared when they're talking to you? What is going on? Another element of this would be if you were trying to imitate somebody who's got freaking awesome combat moves or finishers or something, and so you can actually learn immediately how to do those things by streaming their physical and brain processes directly into your own body and brain, which again is cool. But this is the thing, is that it's very hard to figure out what this stuff will look like, because all they're saying is just that. They're just saying stuff. There aren't a lot of details as of right now, or gameplay showing us what is going to be there. Now, it's going to be a single-player story, much like The Witcher 3, where it's going to be a linear storytelling game. It's not going to try and be just a big open world, do whatever the hell you want. This is going to be a single-player story-based game. Now, it's going to reportedly also include a multiplayer component. Not sure how big that's going to be, but it has been reported that there will be a multiplayer component to it. Hopefully that doesn't take away from the single-player storytelling that they were able to achieve in The Witcher 3. And also, flying cars will reportedly be featured so that players can navigate, which is to be expected. CD Projekt Red wasn't afraid of putting horses and methods of transportation in the game for The Witcher 3. And so, naturally, if they're going to 2077, they should be more than willing to give you another method of travel. Now, a little more about the development. it's going to be based, well, I mean, the game is based on another game by the name of Cyberpunk 2020, which was originally published. Now it's called Cyberpunk 2013 is what it's called now. But that one was published in 1988. Cyberpunk 2020 was published in 1990. And then Cyberpunk V3 was published in 2005. And so, again, just typical science fiction role-playing style game. And it was produced by a company which is no longer around, or at least not as a solo company. I couldn't find much of a trace of it. Are Talzorian Games. Okay, back in the 80s and 90s. This is way back in the day. So it's really interesting to see CD Projekt Red picking this franchise up and saying, oh yeah, we'll take it and run with it, which clearly they've been able to succeed in the past. Now, another note about this, Markin, I can't pronounce his last name, Przebilowicz or something, Przebilowicz, I don't know. It sounds like some sort of disease you contract when you go to Burning Man. Anyway, he's composing the music for Cyberpunk 2077, and he also did the music for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which is awesome because he did a phenomenal job with The Witcher 3. And so to hear that he's been invited back to do the music for Cyberpunk is pretty exciting. And the last thing that we really know is that it's going to be based off of the Red Engine 3. Now, it's not clear if they're going to be upgrading it all the way to Red Engine 4. I would imagine so. They typically do that each game they undertake. It gets another number added to it. But reportedly, CD Projekt Red started upgrading its Red Engine 3, which is what they use for The Witcher 3, right after the release of The Witcher 3. They started upgrading it to get it ready for Cyberpunk 2077. So we can expect upgrades in terms of technological abilities. Maybe they are preparing to release this for the next gen for things like Xbox One Scorpio and for the PlayStation Neo and for typical PCs holding GTX 1080s and things like that, in which case we can expect an amazingly beautiful game with huge expanses and amazing things capable, everything from destructible environments and different things that we saw little peaks of in games like The Witcher. Even in GTA 5, we saw certain peaks of that, and that was on a previous generation. But once we're getting to the point now where the tech is just advancing so quickly that pretty soon we're going to be able to do some amazing things which we just flat out haven't seen before, and I'm looking forward to it. But that's about all we know about Cyberpunk 2077. It's not clear when it's going to come out or what the timeline is for this game. They've hinted that it is a little ways off. Don't expect this game anytime soon, but we can expect probably to start seeing at least a couple gameplay teases, perhaps as soon as next year, which is exciting because whatever CD Projekt Red touches, at least for the past 2 or 3 years, seems to just turn to gold and be amazing. Again, we said the same thing about Bethesda after Skyrim, so let's not hold our breath because we all know how Fallout 4 went down, but we can at least be optimistic. But that's all we know about Cyberpunk 2077 right now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and liked it, just go ahead and express that with a like on this video. It really helps me out. Leave any of your thoughts down in the comment section below. I read every single one of them and try to respond to as many as I can. And also, if you got some free time, check out my vlogging channel. That's also linked down in the description box below. But thank you for watching, guys. I love each and every one of you. Peace out.
I've got something in my front pocket for you. Why don't you reach on in my pocket and see what it is? Then grab onto it, it's just for you. Give it a little squeeze and say, how do you do? Something in my front pocket for you. Why don't you reach on in my pocket and see what it is? Then grab onto it, it's just for you. Give it a little squeeze and say, how do you do? There's something in my front pocket. There's something in my front pocket. There's something in my front pocket.